Hello guys, welcome to my YouTube channel once again. Okay, so in this video, I'm going to be breaking down uh, my understanding of what supply and demand means when it comes to what trading forex, what supply and demand is when it comes to trading forex. Okay, supply and demand is actually one of the key concepts you need to understand since you are going to base your trading on what buying and selling. So we basically know we sell at supply levels and then we buy at what demand levels. So without you getting the understanding of what supply and demand, I don't think you know where to buy and where to what sell in the market. Okay. So what is supply and what is demand? Okay. Supply represents what? The quantity of products that are available in the market to be sold. So the quantity of products that are available to be sold in the market at a particular time, where demand represent the quantity of products that are wanted in the market or to be bought in the market. What are we trying to say? Now, where we have more demand than supply, what do we expect? We expect price of a particular product to what? To rise at a place where we expect more demand than product. And then where we have more what? Supply than demand, we expect what? Price to what? To drop. So what do? We mean what? We sell at what? Demand supply levels. We sell at supply levels and then we buy at what? Demand level. Now, what are we trying to say? So let's take the market. I'm just going to illustrate something here. So we have our zone. So at supply zones, we are what? We are selling, and at what? Demand zone, we are buying. So let's say we have our supply zone. The market moves into our supply zone. So the market moves up. The market was bullish. Then what do we have here? We have a supply zone right here. So let's say we have a supply zone right here. So what are we expecting to do at this supply zone? We are expecting to what? To sell at this supply zone. So this is what we are expecting what? Price to do. Price to what? To sell at our what? Supply zone. Now, what of what? A demand zone, our demand zone. So let's say we have our demand zone here, and then we have what? Price being bearish, where we have our lower lows and lower high. What do you expect? We expect to what? To buy at what? At demand zone. So that's what we are expecting. We are expecting to buy at what? Demand zone. Okay. So how do you identify supply zones and demand zones in the market? How do you identify supply zones and demand zones in the market? Because without identifying them, we won't know where to what? To buy or to sell in the market. So I'm going to give some scenarios of how to identify supply zones and demand zones when it comes to what? The forex market. Now, let's say we have a market moving in a downtrend, market moving in a downtrend. So I'm going to take this where we have our market moving in a downtrend. Then at a particular point in time, you see market what? Consolidating at a particular place. So market will consolidate. Then we have what? A break to the downside. Then we continue. Good. Now, where are we going to find our zone? So this is going to be our what? Our supply zone. For a bearish market, this is going to be our supply zone. So what am I expecting? I'm expecting price to come into our supply zone, then what? I sell. So we have our supply zone here. Good. And then I'm expecting price to trade into our supply zone. Then what do we do next? We sell at the supply zone. Now, for a bullish market, what are we expecting? So let's say we have a bullish market here. So we have the market bullish. And then at a particular point, we have what? Consolidations, what? In the market. Then we continue with what? Our bullishness. Now, what are we expecting? What are we expecting when it comes to this? Now, this is where we identify as our demand zone in a bullish market. So this is going to be what? Our demand in a bullish market. So we have our demand here in a bullish market. So what are we expecting? We are expecting price to come down here, trade into it, then we look for what? Our buys in the market. All right. So we are not going to look at just these two scenarios. We have scenarios where what supplies become what demand and demands becomes what supply. So let's look at some illustrations on that. All right. So we have the markets moving this way, where we have the markets coming down, forming what? Lower lows and lower high. Then we have something like this. Good. So already we've identified this place as what? As our demand zone. So we've identified this as our demand. So what are we expecting? We are expecting price to trade into it. Then we what? We buy. But then in this case, what happens? Price comes into our demand zone. So price can come into our demand zone, give us some consolidation, then what? Price breaks our what? Our demand. So now this demand zones becomes what? A supply zone. So what do you expect now? We are expecting to what? To sell at this zone when price comes into it. So we expect some what? Some sells at this zone. Okay. Now the next example is going to be for the bullish trend. So let's say we have markets making what? Higher highs and higher lows. So markets making higher highs and higher lows. The market's giving us what? Some form of consolidation here. Then after that, price decides what? Move downwards. So what do we have here? So we have our what? Our supply levels here, or our supply zones. So this is where we are going to have our supply zone. And what will we be expecting? We expect market to trade into it, then what? We sell. But in this case, what happens? We have price going into our supply zone, trading, then starts what? Forming some consolidation, and then price what? Breaks our what? Supply zone. In this case, this zone becomes what? A demand zone. A demand zone. So what do we expect to do here? We expect what? Price to come into it, then we what? We buy. So this is what we expect in the market. All right. Now the next scenario I'm going to look at is change in the a trend, where we have a change in trend after a consolidation. So price can be moving, the market can be in a what? In a bearish trend like this. Then at a particular time we have what? The market consolidating. Then what do we get? We get a change in the trend of what? The market. So now what are we going to be expecting? We are going to be expecting this place to be our demand zone, so that when the market gets there, we expect to what? To buy at this zone. All right. For the second one, where do we talk about? We talk about what? The bullish market. So we have markets moving in a bullish trend. Then the market starts what? Form some what? Consolidations. Then market what? Comes down. So market comes this way. So now what do we have here? We have a supply zone here. And what are we expecting? We are expecting market to trade into it. Then we what? We sell. So we are expecting this to happen. Good. So this is my understanding of what supply is and what demand is, and how to what? Identify them in the market. All right. So let's go into the market and see what we can some examples we can make out in the market. All right. So let's take this price for example, this market for example. So as we can see, we the first example I gave some few scenarios. I said the market may be moving what? In an uptrend, then we have some consolidation. And then what are we expecting next? We expect the market to come back into our consolidation and sell. Why? Because this place becomes what? Our supply zone. So we have our supply here. So from the example here, you can see the market, let me just clear this out. So we can see that the market was moving in a bullish trend until we had this what? form of consolidation right what here before the market traded what down. So what are we expecting? We are expecting the market to come into what this zone here and then what sell. So this becomes our what our supply zone. This becomes our what our supply. So what are we expecting? We are expecting market to come into it and then we get what selling in the market. So the same thing happened since this place was what a valid what supply zone. All right. Now, if we continue, you can see the same thing happened here. We had some form of consolidation in the markets right here. So let me just make this one a bit okay. So we had some form of what consolidation right here. So we had the market moving here. Then we had what some form of what consolidation in the market before the market what moved down. So what are we expecting? So we are expecting what the market to come into it. Then we get what some sells. Now, one reason why we are just looking for what sells in the market because the overall trend, as we can see, is what bearish. So when you are in a bearish trend, you know that what you are what just looking to what market to respect what supply zones. When you're a bearish trend, you expect what markets to respect what supply zones. So we have our first supply here. Market came tested and then we had moved to the downside. This side also we had a very nice supply, and then what did market do? Market came right into it and then what sold. So this is what just some few examples of what how to identify what supply zones in the market. How to identify what supply in the market. Okay, so now let's find out how we are going to what get demand zones in the market. How to identify what demand zones in the market. Now, without you practicing, you can't really what identify them. Yes, because they are in the market, but then without practice, you can't identify these zones. So let's take some demand examples and see how we can identify demand zones in the market. Okay, so when we take this price here, we can see market is what in a bullish trend. So what are we looking for? We are expecting price to respect what demand zones. We are expecting price to respect demand zones. Now we can see that price moved down to this side, and we had some what form of consolidations right here before price what moved up impulsively. Okay, so where is our demand zone here? So we had this zone marked out. You mark out the whole zone, then what you expect price to come into it. You look for what sells buys in the market. So price came into it, then we had what our buy in the market. Now another example is this place. As I said, we are in a bullish market. So what are we expecting? We are expecting what buys in the market. So after we had this what market coming down, forming some what consolidations right here. This daily time frame on the 4 hour, you can see it's what a bit messy with what a lot of consolidation right here. So what do we do? We mark that place out. Then we expect price to come into it. Then we get somewhat push to the upside. So we have our demand zone right here. Good. What happened here again? We had some form of what consolidation right here before price what moved up. So we had this consolidation zone marked up as our demand level. Then what did we had? We had a push to the upside right after price came into it. We are in a bullish trend. So what are we expecting? We are expecting to what have what markets respecting what demand zones. The next demand zone we had is what this form of what consolidation right here. So we had a consolidation right here. So we had another demand zone right here. Price went up, broke the structures, came back into our demand zone, and then what we had price moving up. All right. So this is just some simple explanation of what supply and demand really is about. Now, if you don't practice, as I said, you won't be able to what identify these zones in the market whilst they what before they happen, or you won't be able to know where they what we have supply zones and demand zones. So you won't be you won't be able to identify what demand zones and supply zones in the market. I hope you guys understood this video. Please, if you haven't subscribed, I'll be very happy if you subscribe and give me some likes. Thank you for watching this video.